Story 1. I've only been on one date. I stood her up. I hit my head just before the date was supposed to start and was taken to the hospital with a concussion and to get stitches. She waited for me at the cafe for a while and then left in a rage after an hour. She phoned me to give me a piece of her mind, but my friend picked up instead and told her the situation. She came and visited me in the hospital, and we laughed about it while I was trying not to be sick. She married me a couple of years later, and we've been together nearly 20 years now. So, pretty decent date really, considering it was mostly at the hospital for me at least. Story 2. First date with my now wife was to a small bar that had darts. I was going to do the whole not play for real so it's competitive and fun. She proceeded to kick my ass and then let me know she was in a dart league, laughing out loud. It turned into a fun night of talking about assumptions and expectations about people and potential partners. We have now been married 10 years. Story 3. One of my favorite dates I went on with my wife when we were first dating was a picnic in a back corner of a cemetery. Nice grass, nice trees, and not another soul in sight. It was very peaceful and nice. Edit. Based on your responses, it seems like surviving the zombie apocalypse is pretty much the best date ever. Maybe even better than April 25th. Story 4. All in one day, we drove down to wine country to sample various wines and ciders, followed by cherry picking and trying to find the best tree to relax under. Then we went peach picking. After that, we visited a water park and raced each other down the slides. The loser had to go to the wave pool and scream, "Attention everyone, I am the best diver in this park," and proceed to belly flop. We went to a patio and enjoyed scores of appetizers and drinks on a beautiful day. It was a good day. Story 5. Went with my lady to an arcade, so much fun. Skee ball, air hockey, all of that. It was just so much fun to play some games and stuff together. The cherry on the cake was seeing her face light up when we had enough tickets for a teddy bear she wanted. Best date ever. Story 6. Once got stood up by a total flake, but the joy of painting was on the television behind the bar. So I got to just hang out and eat some hot, delicious fries while having Bob Ross tell me that there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. I was super glad that I avoided spending my energy trying to entertain someone who was not interested in me and did not have to share my fries. Excellent night out. 10 out of 10 would date myself again. Story 7. Best one started out with a few small world coincidences. She suggested a restaurant that was my favorite Indian restaurant anywhere around Washington, D.C., and we have many to choose from. She was from Connecticut, and I was from Tennessee. We met online through OkCupid. But on the first date, she said, "I know someone you went to high school with." My first thought was, oh no, here goes this date. Because you see, I was a bit of a punk rock metal head a-hole in high school. Her best friend, though, was one of the people I liked and had been nice to. Even smaller world, as my high school was large. I barely knew a fifth of my graduating class by name. But she had gone to college in Tennessee. This all led, in a natural way, to really sharing our life stories, including how I became a white Hindu person from Tennessee as a teen, a not irrelevant fact as she comes from a Hindu family and had had some bad dating experiences with people intolerant of that. It was a good conversation, so when dinner was done, I felt good asking her to go across the street to a parking lot carnival, which just happened to be happening. We played silly games, rode some rides. On the top of one of those rides that swings you high up in the air, I can't recall the name, pendulum maybe? I said at the top of the arc, "You know what I like about these small-time carnival operations? There isn't really great quality control, so you can experience some real fear on the rides." Her mixture of laughing and screaming was it for me. That same restaurant catered our wedding. Our son knows all the staff there. They catered our surprise 10-year wedding anniversary where people came from Connecticut, Tennessee, all over the East Coast to surprise her and celebrate with us, including her best friend and his husband. Story 8. Met online and spoke for about 2 months. Our first real date followed an initial meeting at a pub for lunch to ensure we weren't serial killers. We went go-karting, had lunch, and then went indoor rock climbing. While playing a game with crayons on the table paper, she made a mistake and exclaimed, "Oh no!" in the middle of the day at the restaurant, and then looked incredibly embarrassed. I had made an effort to drive carefully while we were going around, but we were running late to the climbing gym, so I asked if she was comfortable with me driving a bit faster. I shifted down a gear and accelerated, and she just giggled beside me. That's when I knew it would work. Got married last October. Story 9. She picked me up, and we drove out to this park where it's basically boulders strewn throughout a river. We chatted, climbed all over them, and found a dry spot to have a light picnic. She taught me to play cribbage. We took the scenic route home, and she played me her favorite song. We set a date to go dancing next. That was our first date. I married her about 3 years later. Story 10. When I was in college and didn't have a lot of money, my then girlfriend and I decided to treat ourselves and go to one of the nicer Italian places in town. We both got dressed up, had a great dinner and drinks, and you can guess the rest. But seeing how happy it made her was the best part. Not because it was a nice restaurant, but because she was genuinely happy to go on a date with me. Story 11. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate or any special location, but the best dates I've gone on are the ones where there's an instant chemistry pretty much the second you meet. The whole time you're just locked in each other's eyes, and the conversation moves so naturally that neither of you can wait to leave the bar or restaurant and finally kiss. Story 12. First date with my current girlfriend, we tried going bowling, but there were leagues, so we went to a local brewery instead and ended up facing off in foosball there for over 2 hours, and it ended up being a ton of fun. Story 13. First date with my now wife. We were sliding down a small hill in my neighborhood in the winter. It was an awesome time together and so much fun. Beautiful evening, beautiful sky, and only the two of us. Perfect. Story 14. When I was 17, I borrowed my dad's truck and put a love seat in the back. I picked up my date and went to a drive-in movie, sitting on the couch in the back of the truck. It was perfect. She's my one that got away. Story 15. Second date. We met fairly late, around 10 p.m., which is not so unusual in Spain, and she was a little shy in the beginning. I took her to a rooftop bar that's usually empty overlooking the harbor, and it was packed. Oh no, but the waitress called up from the street and said, "We just opened up for two," winked at me as she saw my excitement, and we enjoyed cocktails with a breeze in view. We told stories, and I could see her relaxing from her body language, and we kind of hit this nice flow where everything was funny and exciting at the same time. Since we are coming out of confinement, all of the other places I wanted to go were closed. But then we found another bar in a plaza. We sat for 20 to 25 minutes and were completely ignored, and I could tell she was getting frustrated. I thought, we've got to change the scene, so we found a friendlier place. She was adamant that we get a table and be served quickly, and we were. I could tell she was really pleased that we could finally get back to enjoying each other's company. That made me really happy, that she was willing to put forth that effort to keep the flow. It was getting late, and I suggested we go to the beach nearby and sit on the sand. We shared some of our music interests with songs from Spotify, sang a little bit, and watched all of the hilariously drunk people try not to fall into the ocean while peeing. I moved over so we were touching, and then I moved in for the first kiss. She had this big smile the whole time, and we kissed, and it was awesome, delicate, and intentional. By now it was 4 a.m, and I drove her home on a scooter while she hugged me for support. The scooter had support bars, ups and downs with a cozy ending. Perfect. Story 16. We matched on OkCupid and quickly decided on a last-minute dinner date. I joked about needing to take a shower in case she wanted to hook up after, which turned out to be the right move. We met at the place, but it was too crowded, so she drove us to a different place. We had a nice conversation over some ramen, and we ended up back at her place. We hooked up, and I stayed the night, and then we hung out the whole next day. At some point, we decided to make it a 24-hour date just because. We hooked up again that night, and then I went home. Obviously, the sex was a big factor in how good it was. The novelty of a 24-hour first date was fun, and I enjoyed her company. Story 17. Met a girl on a dating app and agreed to a first date at a bar in London. She was half an hour late because she was worried about being stood up due to previous experience, so she didn't leave home until I said I was there. I was sitting at the bar with the 2 beers I'd got us, with the bartender asking me if I'd like to drop the table reservation, which we were about to forfeit when she finally walked in. She was a healthcare professional and found out early on that I had always wanted to be a doctor, but had ended up doing a different degree and pursuing a different career. As we got to know one another, she made it her mission to convince me to pursue that dream. Despite being a fairly shy person, once the drinks were flowing, she came out of her shell a bit more. I paid the tab before she had a chance to protest. So instead she blurted out, "Well, fine. Then I'll just buy you dinner on our next date." This was followed instantly by a slightly panicked look as she wondered whether she'd overstepped and been presumptive. But what a line! I've never clicked so well with someone. Suffice to say, I'm browsing Reddit to procrastinate from writing my wedding speech, and I'm also training as a doctor. Story 18. Way back in high school, the group I was in assumed I was gay. I was one of two very obese males in our high school, and while I was well-liked, I was never considered an option for dating. Since my best friend was gay, and the other obese guy was gay, it was assumed I was too. At the end of my junior year, I started to get to know one of the new sophomores that joined our group. She was very cute and quirky. I'll admit I had a crush, but I knew I had almost no chance. Until she found out that I was a golf fanatic and not overweight by choice. Yes, sometimes genetics does give you a bad hand. So, at first, we went golfing every weekend with a few friends. Then, after about a month, she wanted to golf just with me. One day, after a tough round in 100-degree heat, we were sitting at the 19th hole sipping on some soda, and she just put her hand on mine and said she wanted to go out regularly. That was the first time a girl my age had shown interest in me since I gained weight. We showered off and changed in the clubhouse, separately of course, and decided to spend the rest of the day together. We went from golfing to a nice restaurant for a late lunch, then to a movie and some shopping. We ran into some friends who said the group was getting together at the mini golf course one of my friends worked at. His parents owned it. When we pulled up, she took my hand and said she wanted to tell everyone we were together. It wasn't a joke or a Carrie-like setup. It was a wonderful time filled with congratulations and, "I thought you were gay. If you break up with her, you know my number" kind of vibe. We all had fun mini golfing and having a late dinner together. Not only was it the best date ever, but it really gave me a confidence boost. We did break it off amicably that winter. She really liked skating and skiing, but I just can't survive in the cold. A combination of exercise-induced anaphylaxis and cold urticaria. Story 19 wasn't really a date, but a precursor to one. I accompanied her to her old high school for that thing where students from the past can join the band to play some songs. She played the French horn, and it was really nice to see her having fun like that. But the part that got me good was at the end. She offered to walk me to my car. Her old high school is one of the rough ones. She herself fought a lot during her time there, and since we stayed really late introducing me to some people, by the time we left it was mostly empty except for a few wild teenagers in the parking lot. She's like 5 feet 4 inches, maybe 110 pounds soaking wet. I'm 5 feet 10 inches, about 200 pounds, and really muscular. When she offered to walk me to my car to make sure I got there safely, my heart about burst out of my chest. No one has ever been so thoughtful towards me. And that confidence in her ability to keep me safe, so sexy. Because of my muscular physique, no one has ever cared about my safety or wanted to protect me. Felt warm. Sure wish things worked out between us. Story 20. I used to live in a city which has a very famous set of intact Roman baths. As a local, it's something of a point of pride to never go, but my then girlfriend, now fiancé, insisted we go. It was one of those high summer days where it's boiling, but rain is 5 seconds away. We wandered aimlessly around this ancient building, feeling the weight of its history as I tried to fix her every perfect movement in my mind, and it was nearly dusk when we got to the last point high above the pool. Lit by lantern light with the static charge of a storm building in the evening air, I kissed her, and it felt like we were floating in the gathering clouds. I'm pretty sure I'd already fallen in love with her by that point, but that was the moment when I knew it, unequivocally and without doubt. Story 21. Dancing on the beach with my wife to Thomas Rhett. Sand between my toes felt great, and the moon was gorgeous. Finally got my wife to relax between work schedules and the kids. Story 22. Honestly, last week I went on an absolutely wonderful date. We went to dinner, both big foodies, and then walked around the city we live in for 4 hours after that, just talking and seeing things. The conversation was great, with good banter. She's really intelligent and cute. I can't wait to see her for our next date. The best part was having the same mutual feeling at the end of the date. For reference, I've really struggled with dating after getting out of a relationship that was 5.5 years long. So this date made me super happy.